There is a small auto repair garage in Vietnam. It is not a large workshop with cutting-edge equipment or a big team of professional mechanics. Instead, it is home to three dedicated craftsmen who share one common passion: bringing old, forgotten cars back to life. Rather than working on newer vehicles that only require routine maintenance, they are drawn to cars that most people have already given up on. These are vehicles that have spent years sitting abandoned, covered in dust, rust, and countless signs of wear. To many people, they are nothing more than piles of scrap metal with no future. But to this team, every old car tells a story and deserves one more chance to return to the road. Every restoration project begins with a careful inspection. Before turning a single wrench, the team thoroughly examines every part of the vehicle. They inspect the faded paint, the rusted body panels, the chassis, the engine, the suspension, the electrical system, and the interior. Understanding the car's condition allows them to create a detailed restoration plan and prepare the tools, materials, and replacement parts needed for the project. Today, another classic project has arrived at their workshop. Time has not been kind to this vehicle. The paint has peeled away in many places, exposing heavily rusted metal underneath. Years of neglect have left the interior covered with dirt, worn upholstery, and cracked rubber components. Under the hood, the engine also shows clear signs of age and long-term inactivity. To restore the car properly, the team has decided to completely disassemble it. This is one of the most important stages of the restoration process, requiring patience, precision, and experience. Every bolt, every bracket, every panel, and every mechanical component must be removed carefully to avoid damaging parts that can still be restored and reused. The three mechanics work together seamlessly. Each person is responsible for different tasks, but they constantly support one another throughout the process. As every component is removed, it is carefully labeled, cleaned, and organized. Parts that can be saved will later be restored, while those that are beyond repair will either be replaced with new components or custom fabricated when original parts are no longer available. As more of the body panels are removed, the true condition of the vehicle gradually becomes visible. Hidden beneath the exterior are problems that could never have been discovered during the initial inspection. Several sections of the chassis have been severely weakened by corrosion. Old welds require repair, and both the suspension and braking systems will need a complete overhaul before the car can safely return to the road. Although they know many challenges still lie ahead, none of them lose their determination. Every difficult repair is another to demonstrate their craftsmanship and gain valuable experience. They understand that a high-quality restoration cannot be rushed. Every stage requires patience, accuracy, and close attention to detail. Once the vehicle has been completely stripped down, each individual component will begin its own restoration journey. The chassis will be cleaned, repaired, reinforced, and protected against future corrosion. The engine will be carefully inspected piece by piece, with worn components repaired or replaced as necessary. The electrical system will be rebuilt to ensure reliable operation, while the interior will be restored to provide comfort and bring back its original appearance. For this team, restoring an old car is about much more than fixing broken parts. It is about preserving history, craftsmanship, and the character that every classic vehicle carries. Every completed project represents hundreds of hours of hard work, dedication, and a genuine passion for automotive restoration. This restoration has only just begun. Many demanding stages still await, including rust removal, body repair, engine rebuilding, repainting, and the careful reassembly of every single component. There will undoubtedly be unexpected obstacles along the way. However, with their experience, teamwork, and determination, these three mechanics are confident they can overcome every challenge and transform this neglected vehicle into a beautiful machine once again. We invite you to join us throughout this incredible restoration journey. Every episode will capture each step of the process in detail, from the first bolt removed to the unforgettable moment when the fully restored car starts its engine and drives once again. We hope this transformation inspires you and proves that with enough passion, patience, and dedication, even the most forgotten machines can be given a second chance. every single part and component from the car alone takes an enormous amount of time and effort. Every bolt, trim panel, electrical wire, and mechanical component must be carefully removed in the correct order. Even a small mistake can damage reusable parts or create major difficulties during reassembly later on. That is why disassembly is not simply a matter of taking the car apart. It requires patience, experience, and exceptional attention to detail. Throughout the process, the three team members work together seamlessly. One mechanic focuses on the electrical system, another removes the interior components, while the third concentrates on the engine and chassis. Every part that comes off the vehicle is cleaned, labeled, and carefully organized before being stored. Although this stage may seem routine, it plays a critical role in the success of the entire restoration. Careful organization now will save countless hours and prevent costly mistakes during the rebuilding process. To many people, taking a car apart may appear to be one of the easiest parts of a restoration project. In reality, however, it is only the beginning, and arguably the simplest stage of the entire rebuild. The real challenge begins once the vehicle has been completely stripped down into hundreds of individual components. From that point forward, every single part must be carefully inspected to determine whether it can be restored, repaired, or replaced. After many hours of continuous work, the team finally completes the disassembly. The engine is then carefully lifted out of the engine bay using a professional hoist. With both the engine and body components removed, the bare chassis is exposed for the first time, revealing damage that had remained hidden for years beneath the surface. Corrosion, worn mounting points, and structural issues that could not be seen before are now clearly visible, allowing the team to create a more accurate restoration plan. While two members continue cleaning the chassis and sorting the remaining parts, the third mechanic turns his attention to one of the most important components of the entire vehicle, the transmission. The transmission is often considered the second heart of a car's drivetrain. Although it does not generate power like the engine, it is responsible for delivering that power to the wheels as efficiently as possible. If the engine produces the energy, the transmission determines how that energy is used. Without a properly functioning transmission, even the most powerful engine would be unable to move the vehicle effectively. Inside the transmission is an incredibly sophisticated system made up of dozens of precision-engineered gears, shafts, bearings, synchronizers, and other mechanical components. Every single part is designed to work in perfect harmony with the others. Each gear serves a specific purpose, combining with the rest of the system to create different gear ratios that allow the vehicle to perform under a wide range of driving conditions. These gear ratios are what make a car both powerful and efficient. When starting from a stop or climbing a steep hill, the transmission selects a lower gear ratio to multiply torque, giving the vehicle the strength needed to move forward. At higher speeds, it shifts into taller gear ratios, allowing the engine to run at lower RPM while maintaining speed. This not only improves fuel efficiency, but also reduces engine wear and provides a smoother, quieter driving experience. In many ways, a vehicle's acceleration, pulling power, top speed, fuel economy, and overall driving performance all depend on the transmission working exactly as designed. Even a single worn gear, damaged bearing, or failed synchronizer can affect the entire system, causing noise, vibration, rough shifting, or even complete transmission failure. For that reason, restoring a transmission requires a very high level of mechanical skill. The entire assembly must be completely disassembled, with every individual component thoroughly cleaned and carefully inspected. Each gear is examined for wear, every bearing is checked for smooth operation, and every synchronizer is tested to ensure it still functions correctly. Any damaged or excessively worn parts must be repaired or replaced before the transmission can be reassembled. This is not a job that can be rushed. Even the smallest assembly error can prevent the transmission from shifting properly or significantly reduce its lifespan once the vehicle returns to the road. Every measurement must be precise, every clearance carefully verified, and every component installed exactly according to the manufacturer's specifications. For this restoration project, the team's goal is not simply to make the car run again. They are determined to restore every major component to the highest possible standard, and the transmission is no exception. Although many hours of demanding work still lie ahead, the three mechanics remain committed to their craft. With patience, experience, and a shared passion for automotive restoration, they are confident that this forgotten vehicle will one day drive once again with the smooth performance and reliability it had when it first left the factory. While the other two team members continue working on the chassis and other vehicle components, one mechanic takes on what is arguably the most important task of the entire restoration project: rebuilding the engine, the very heart of the car. The engine is the component that generates the power needed to move the vehicle. No matter how perfectly the transmission, suspension, or chassis is restored, the car will never return to the road without a reliable engine. That is why an engine rebuild is considered one of the most demanding stages of any restoration. It requires extensive mechanical knowledge, years of experience, and exceptional patience. Because an engine is built from numerous heavy metal components, the complete engine assembly weighs hundreds of pounds. It is simply too heavy to move safely by hand. To handle it without risking injury or damaging valuable parts, the mechanic uses a compact engine hoist to carefully lift the engine and secure it onto a sturdy engine stand. Once the engine is safely mounted, he does not begin taking it apart immediately. Instead, the first priority is draining all of the old engine oil and any remaining lubricants. After years of operation and long periods of inactivity, the oil has become contaminated with sludge, carbon deposits, microscopic metal particles, and other impurities. Removing these fluids before disassembly helps keep the internal components clean and makes the inspection process much more effective. With the old oil completely drained, the engine teardown can finally begin. This stage resembles a mechanical surgery, where every step must be performed with precision. Every bolt, cover, shaft, and internal component is removed in the correct sequence. The mechanic must carefully remember the exact location and orientation of hundreds of individual parts to ensure everything can be reassembled exactly as the manufacturer intended. It quickly becomes clear why this responsibility has been given to him. He is likely the most experienced mechanic in the workshop, trusted with the most complex and technically demanding job. Rebuilding an engine requires far more than simply knowing how to disassemble it. It demands a deep understanding of how every internal component functions and the ability to recognize even the smallest signs of wear or damage. A single incorrectly installed part or a tiny measurement error can prevent the engine from operating properly after it is rebuilt. Throughout the process, a wide range of specialized tools are used. Torque wrenches, impact tools, pullers, precision measuring instruments, and engine-specific service equipment all play an important role in ensuring that every component is removed safely and without damage. Each tool has a specific purpose, helping the mechanic complete the job with maximum accuracy. Even with professional equipment, disassembling an engine is a slow and demanding process. Many components have been exposed to years of heat, pressure, and vibration, causing bolts and parts to seize together. Rather than forcing them apart, the mechanic works patiently, carefully freeing each component while avoiding unnecessary damage to parts that may still be reusable. After many hours of meticulous work, the engine is finally reduced to hundreds of individual components. The engine block, cylinder head, crankshaft, camshaft, pistons, connecting rods, timing components, oil pump, and countless smaller parts are all carefully arranged across the workbench, ready for the next phase of the restoration. However, completely disassembling the engine is far from the final goal. In reality, it is only the beginning. The purpose of taking the engine apart is to gain access to every internal component so it can be thoroughly cleaned, inspected, and restored. Years of accumulated oil residue, carbon buildup, rust, and dirt must all be removed before any repairs can begin. Once each component has been cleaned, It is carefully measured and inspected for wear, cracks, distortion, and other hidden defects that may not be visible during normal operation. Components that remain within factory specifications will be restored and reused, while those that have exceeded their service limits will be replaced with new parts to ensure the rebuilt engine performs reliably for many years to come. An engine rebuild is undoubtedly one of the most time-consuming and technically demanding stages of restoring an old vehicle. Every measurement, every adjustment, and every assembly step must be performed with extraordinary precision. Even the smallest mistake can affect the engine's performance, reliability, and lifespan. It is this level of patience, craftsmanship, and dedication that defines true automotive restoration. Slowly but surely, the dirty, worn-out collection of metal parts begins its transformation. Piece by piece, the engine that once seemed beyond repair is given a new life, preparing to become the powerful heart of the restored vehicle once again. After completely disassembling the engine, the work is far from over. In fact, taking the engine apart is only the first step. The real objective is to thoroughly clean, inspect, and restore every individual component before the engine can be reassembled. The mechanic begins by sorting all of the engine components into separate groups based on their function. This makes the cleaning and inspection process much more organized, while also reducing the risk of mixing up parts during reassembly. Every component is carefully arranged and handled using the most appropriate cleaning method for its material, shape, and purpose. Cleaning the engine components is one of the most important stages of the entire rebuild. After years of operation, every part is coated with old engine oil, carbon deposits, dirt, sludge, and other contaminants. If these impurities are not completely removed, they can interfere with accurate inspection, reduce lubrication efficiency, and ultimately shorten the lifespan of the rebuilt engine. For components heavily covered in grease and oil, the mechanic usually soaks them in a specialized cleaning solvent or degreasing oil. Every workshop has its own preferred techniques and cleaning products based on experience and available equipment. Although the methods may differ, the goal is always the same: to remove every trace of dirt, oil residue, and accumulated deposits from each component. After soaking, the parts are cleaned using a variety of techniques. Gear components, for example, are carefully scrubbed with brushes to remove dirt from every tooth and every contact surface. Although this may seem like a simple task, it requires patience and attention to detail. Even a small amount of remaining debris can affect how the gears mesh together once the engine is back in operation. Not every component can be cleaned with a brush. Parts with narrow passages, complex shapes, or hard-to-reach areas are often soaked for a longer period before being cleaned with compressed air. The high-pressure air removes oil, dirt, and debris trapped deep inside areas that brushes simply cannot reach, ensuring that even the smallest internal passages are completely clean. Some components require even more intensive treatment. Rust, hardened deposits, and oxidation are carefully removed using grinding tools, polishing wheels, or other specialized equipment. During this process, the mechanic must work with extreme care to remove only the unwanted material while preserving the original dimensions and precision machined surfaces of the component. Since every engine part has its own unique design, material, and function, there is no single cleaning method that works for everything. The mechanic must choose the most effective approach for each individual component, ensuring it is thoroughly cleaned without compromising its structural integrity or machining accuracy. Once every part has been cleaned, it is carefully dried and inspected again. This is the stage where the mechanic measures wear, checks for cracks, distortion, and other hidden damage that may have developed over years of service. Components that still meet factory specifications will be restored and reused, while those that exceed acceptable wear limits will be replaced with new parts. With every component cleaned and approved, the engine reassembly process can finally begin. This is one of the most critical stages of the entire restoration. Every component must be installed in the correct position, in the correct orientation, and in the proper sequence according to the manufacturer's specifications. Every bolt must be tightened to the specified torque, and every clearance must fall within precise engineering tolerances. An engine is an extremely precise mechanical system. Even the smallest assembly mistake can prevent its components from working together correctly. The result could be excessive noise, reduced performance, increased fuel consumption, premature wear, or even complete engine failure. For that reason, the mechanic carefully verifies every step before moving on to the next one. Watching the team at work, it becomes clear that every task is carried out with patience, precision, and confidence. From disassembly and cleaning to inspection and final assembly, each stage follows a systematic process built on experience and careful planning. Their teamwork and attention to detail demonstrate not only strong technical skills, but also a genuine commitment to quality craftsmanship. Exceptional mechanics can be found anywhere in the world, and what truly sets them apart is their experience, dedication, and passion for their craft. Judging by the way this team approaches every stage of the restoration, it is clear that they take great pride in their work and refuse to cut corners. Their careful attention to every detail gives this forgotten vehicle the best possible chance to return to the road in outstanding condition. Now we'd love to hear your thoughts. After watching this restoration process, what do you think of this team's craftsmanship, attention to detail, and mechanical skills? Share your opinion in the comments below. We'd love to know what you think. In addition to rebuilding the mechanical components, restoring the exterior is just as important. A car may run perfectly, but if its body remains worn, faded, and weathered, the restoration can never truly be considered complete. That is why the team dedicates just as much care and attention to refinishing the vehicle's exterior as they do to rebuilding its mechanical systems. The painting process follows every essential step of a professional restoration. First, the old paint is carefully removed, along with any rust, imperfections, and damaged areas on the body. Once the surface has been properly prepared, body filler is applied where needed, followed by multiple rounds of sanding to create a perfectly smooth foundation. Only after every panel meets the required standard is the final exterior paint carefully applied, giving the vehicle a flawless new finish. Rather than changing the vehicle's appearance, the team chooses to preserve its original identity by repainting it in its factory color, a classic military green. Keeping the original color not only respects the car's heritage, but also preserves its authentic character, allowing it to retain the look and personality it had when it first left the factory. As the fresh paint cures and the final pieces are reassembled, the transformation becomes truly remarkable. The once forgotten vehicle, covered in rust, dirt, and years of neglect, has been completely reborn. Its clean lines, glossy finish, and renewed presence make it difficult to believe it is the very same car that first arrived at the workshop. This incredible result is the product of many days of hard work, patience, skill, and unwavering dedication. Every repaired component, every polished surface, and every carefully assembled part reflects the passion and craftsmanship of the three mechanics who refused to give up on a vehicle that many others would have considered beyond saving. And now, the moment we've all been waiting for has finally arrived. Let's take one final look at the finished restoration and admire the outstanding work this team has accomplished. We hope this incredible transformation has inspired you and shown that with enough patience, determination, and craftsmanship, even the most neglected vehicles can be given a second chance. Thank you so much for staying with us until the very end of this journey. Your support and encouragement inspire us to continue sharing more restoration projects like this in the future. We truly appreciate you watching, and we hope you enjoyed every step of the restoration process. Wishing you a wonderful day, good health, and all the best. We'll see you again in the next restoration adventure.